Just like to welcome James Cullen of Pfizer Green Castle. Are we? We're just waiting there. All the technology is in place. Yeah. So James, yeah, up to yourself. James is the site EHS manager and has been there over 17 years. Has worked in regulated industries, pharmaceutical manufacturing, oil, gas production. Primarily looking at compliance and at the to ensure manufacturers side are compliance, relevant legislation and operating permits. And he's going to chat to us about the green journey, how to engage your colleagues, and talking about the future challenges associated with the journey at Pfizer Grange Castle. Over to you, James.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So as Conor said, I'm the EHS and security lead at the Pfizer Grange Castle site here in Dublin. And this afternoon I just want to really give you a rundown in terms of what we've done in our green journey, which brings in energy, climate, water, waste. And a lot of what I've heard this morning has been very good. A lot of it, seems familiar to different projects and initiatives that we've done over the course of the last number of years. So you're probably not going to hear anything completely new in here. But from this morning as well, I've got a lot of ideas in terms of where we need to go in the future as well. And it's good to hear a lot about the collaboration that's required, because we've certainly put a focus on that over the course of the green journey that we've had here at Grange Castle. Just on the bottom there is the site. Probably a lot of people might be familiar with it. It tends to get photographed a lot. I've been on the site now for just coming up on 13 years. I was there when it was just going beyond a green field, just starting to come out of the ground. And one of the things that has inspired people to be part of the green journey is just the environment that we're in. So we are right out at the edge of the city. Beyond us, it's open countryside, it's farmland still beside us. So that has really helped us to be able to talk to people on site, to be able to engage them, also to be able to engage with our service providers as well, because while Pfizer is the name that's on the front door, it's also been done in collaboration with a lot of the service providers that we use. So I hope to be able to share some of that experience with you here this afternoon. So I guess the first thing is that like all major multinationals, Pfizer does have a vision with respect to where it's going from a sustainability perspective, and it calls out what those three pillars are in terms of energy, waste, and water. Initially, when the Grange Castle site came over from Wyeth to Pfizer, they already had a sustainability program up and running, and that was running from 2007 up to 2012 was the time frame for that. During that time, they accelerated what they were doing. They achieved their targets possibly about a year ahead of schedule. So we weren't formally in that program for the first round until they came to start looking at what the next round of sustainability targets were going to be from 2013 to 2015, and now looking from 2016 up to 2020 in terms of where we're going. One of the things that we've done along the way is to really try and promote that the work we have been doing since the establishment of the site has all been around the principles of sustainability. It's been about trying to inspire people to do the right thing, to make sure that as a healthcare company that's providing medicines that help to improve the health of people, that we don't have a negative impact or consequence on the local environment. And when corporate come and talk about acting globally, we think about acting globally and thinking locally as well is what we try and get people on site to think about, to say that what they do here on site can impact how the company is seen and perceived as well. The approach, as I said, so this is the corporate goals and objectives that are out there. They're not, they won't be terribly different to what a lot of other companies would have out there. As I said, they focus on the three pillars. But again, at the Grange Castle site, we've used this to try and help us frame what we have been doing as a means of trying to communicate with our colleagues as well. It also helps us to be able to compare what we're doing here in Dublin to what other sites are doing around the globe as well, in terms of different energy management programs that they have or water conservation projects that are ongoing. Again, because we have a common goal that all sites are working towards, it helps us to be able to compare like for like. Probably one of the bigger challenges that we have at the Grange Castle site is that it is a growing site, whereas some of the other sites are either in steady state or they're reducing in terms of that the levels of activity are there. So we do have an additional challenge as well as trying to support and meet those corporate objectives. So just in terms of the early days and what we did, because a lot of the times, people will come in from the corporate group and they start talking about sustainability and targets and being aggressive, and that we really need to try and push and engage people in what we're doing. And I always like to try and say to them, well, look, we've been doing this for a long time. This is not news to us. I think it's just good for people within the organisation to remember that we have done a lot prior to formal programs, objectives and targets being set up around sustainability. Again, it's quite a wordy slide, and I think it's the last wordy slide that I have. I think the rest of it is just images. But again, it is worth always knowing what have you done, where have you come from. And again, wastewater reduction was something that was very topical for us at the time. We were consuming a lot of water, we were putting out a lot of water, and it really forced us to look at where do we go with this? What do we do? How do we ensure that our site has enough water supply into the future, but also has capacity to be able to dispose of wastewater as well? And what were the options around that? And again, it was being driven by the business. It was being driven by the IPPC license that we had on site at the time. It was also being driven from a cost perspective as well. So they were good things to have to motivate us, to keep us going. We had a certified environmental management system initially, which we achieved in 2006, back in the early days. So again, it was about just always trying to do the right thing. From a compliance perspective, we were always compliant. We were always moving in that space. We were, seen it as, being a good site within the corporation in terms of what we were doing. We weren't doing anything too wild or wonderful, and that kept them happy. But a lot of the projects that we did at the time, it was, as I said, driven by business objectives, but a lot of it was also driven by the people that we had on site, and a lot of them were passionate people in terms of wanting to do the right thing. A lot of them wanted to get experience in new areas that they wouldn't normally get an opportunity to work in, and a lot of people just wanted to share previous experiences that they had. And without these people, we would not necessarily have achieved some of these projects. And again, just moving on to things like appointing an energy manager. So we did that back in 2007, was that the first energy manager was appointed to the site. Again, to start trying to provide structure around what we were doing. And again, it was interesting listening to Mike Brogan speak earlier this morning around, what's project-based versus what's a system, and to be able to reflect back on the journey that we've had so far, to be able to see the different phases of what we have done, where we're currently at, and also, as I said at the outset, in terms of where we can go into the future, because our energy management system is not formally certified to ISO 50001 yet, but it is something that we are thinking about and looking at. But also, working with our service providers has been a very important part of the green journey that we've had. And I guess one of the key moments was deciding to go to a total waste management solution, and we worked with Indiver on that. And again, it was because of the motivation and the passion of the people who were working for Wyeth, as it was at the time, and the support and encouragement that we got from Indiver in terms of what they wanted to do, that we implemented the system. We were able to improve what we were doing from a waste perspective. We were able to invest in technology, figure out where the waste was coming from, what could we do to further improve segregation, to look at repurposing, reuse, diverting waste streams, also trying to get value back from waste as well. And again, on our own, we may not necessarily have had the expertise to be able to do that, but by being collaborative, and I guess that is one of the central themes that has come out certainly over the course of this morning, is that it is about collaboration, and it is about capturing ideas that people have, and then what do you do to try and implement, improve and change. And again, we've moved on to CHP introduction in order to help us from an energy management perspective, but also to be able to try and make better use of the resources that we had. So again, it was always down to others, asking the question, have you considered? What would you think about doing? And that certainly helped us to get on this track for a green journey. As in 2011, Pfizer came out with its Green Journey program, which we entered onto that. So in terms of what we did then from sort of 2010, 2011 onwards, we looked at a multifaceted approach to our sustainability journey and what we could do. And over the next 4 slides, there's nothing in there that you probably haven't heard already this morning. There's nothing rocket science in there. But again, it was just about making sure that it supports what the business is trying to do, where the business is trying to go. We had a lot of challenges over the last number of years in terms of remaining competitive, in terms of our cost of goods, competitive within the Pfizer biotech network in terms of what we were doing. And this was certainly a good driver to keep the mind focused, and also to start getting our colleagues engaged in terms of what are the actions that they undertake on a daily basis that can potentially impact on our energy consumption or on the type of waste that we produce and where it can go from. So just moving on, the large equipment optimization, as one of my colleagues says, this is the large lumpy stuff that typically sits behind the wall that colleagues in the manufacturing space don't typically see. They don't know what the impact is of turning up the dial to consume more water or turning it down. But one of the things that was really key to this was getting data and being able to use that to make informed decisions. And going back to one of the questions earlier, was are energy projects treated any differently in terms of capital expenditure and approval for it? Similarly, we put it through the same process to make sure that there was going to be a return on investment or cost avoidance and cost reduction into the future as well. So it was by having good data, by working collaboratively with people who are experts in the area. So we did a lot of work with the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Again, we found them to be very good, very helpful to be able to bring us along in terms of where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do. We looked at simple things like equipment setback. If it didn't need to be operating at full capacity, then change the automation to bring it back outside of peak times. To look at heat and cooling conflicts. We were taking air in, cooling it, reheating it, potentially cooling it again. Why were we doing that? Because somebody decided back in the design phase of the original project back in 2000, 2001 that that's what a HVAC system looks like. So it was going back and starting to ask those questions. Why do we have it? What do we do with it? How do we change it? And how does it feed into what we want to do to make ourselves a more competitive site within the network? And improving limit control on equipment as well. Again, a lot of equipment that we had at the outset, it was over-spec'd, it was oversized, and we just turned it on and turned it up to 100% and never asked the question, why? What's it doing for us? And again, it was our engineering team asking that question, our utilities operator asking that question, some colleagues, starting to ask that question, coming up with ideas as well in terms of what we could do and where we could go with that. Energy efficient design is one of the things that we brought in as part of it. So when we optimized a lot of the large equipment, we made sure that future projects that we were going to do, made sure they captured those learnings, they replicated what worked, what was successful, and start incorporating that into large capital projects as they come along. So in 2012, we undertook what we call on site the NSI project. It was to retrofit 45,000 square feet of clean room manufacturing space into an existing building. On the graphic there, if you look at it, that's the building there. There was live suites operating on either side of that. So we had a major program to decommission and demolish what was existing while maintaining manufacturing on either side of that. Again, by having this concept of what are we doing, how can we do it better, how can we work collaboratively with our partners, we were able to reuse or repurpose equipment that was coming out of it, segregate waste, minimize anything that was going for disposal, maximize reuse and recycling of metals that were coming out of the facility as well. So overall, a good success story, but also looking at how do we replicate what's been successful in other established manufacturing spaces. Looking at technology, how it had changed and moved on since the original build 8 or 10 years previously, in order to reduce our energy footprint. Also to look at things like eliminating quench cooling. So when we did this project, the drain system would have been double contained plastic piping that required quench cooling in order for it to be able to manage the temperatures that were coming out of it. By making the decision to invest in stainless steel double contained piping, we were able to eliminate that completely. And again, it all adds to what we're trying to do in terms of conserving natural resources, reducing our water consumption. And again, trying to change the facility to make it more friendly, maximising use of light that was coming in, because previously everything had been in artificial lighting. And again, it was very popular and well accepted by the colleagues that work in there to have natural daylight coming in. The success of that project was recognised by the ISPE last year. That particular project won the Operational Excellence Facility of the Year award. And again, probably not a whole lot of groundbreaking things that were done. It was just taking lots of little things, putting them together into one project in order to support what we're trying to achieve overall. High visibility projects. This is something where we've done all the lumpy stuff at the back of the walls. We turn down equipment, we reduce temperatures, but we need to make sure that colleagues know what we're doing, that they see a visible impact in terms of trying to improve the sustainability of our operations. So simple things like lighting changes, removing taps in clean rooms and moving them to automated mixer taps as well. Again, it just gets the message across that we're serious about what we're trying to do. It's consistent with the messaging that they're hearing out in wider society as well. So the example that you see there is, the main corridor that we have in Grange Castle. And again, it was a simple case of looking at what type of lights do we have, how many fixtures are in there, do we need to have them all on? Historically, they would have been on all the time during daylight hours as well. So we looked at how do we change the lighting that's in there, how do we change the number of lights that are on, and making sure that we meet the minimum criteria in order to have a safe working environment as well. Similarly, externally for the pilot lab that we have here on the bottom, again, just changing the lighting technology. That was a relatively recent build. That was built back in 2009, and we took the decision to change out and upgrade the lighting in there for more intelligent lighting, more energy efficient lighting as well. Again, we tried to make sure that we could reuse or send on those light fittings for others to use as appropriate. Then colleague engagement. And again, this comes back to making sure that you capture that passion that people have. We've done a lot in terms of telling people what it is that we've done, because a lot of the time they won't see it because it sits behind the walls. We've run a number of different events to educate people in terms of what they can do to make their homes more energy efficient. That was touched on earlier today as well, because we want people to see that there is a connection between energy efficiency in your home. We also need to be energy efficient in the workplace as well. Trying to make it personal, relevant and important for people. When we do these publications here at the Green Link, we go out and we ask colleagues, are you doing anything unusual? Are you doing anything different from an environmental perspective? And the projects that come back that people are doing in their own spare time in areas that you wouldn't think people would have an interest in, from making their own biodiesel to building a new house from scratch to be a passive house. Again, it's great to be able to capture that and to be able to share that knowledge with people as well. So again, it's a case of working collaboratively with our service providers formally, but also working informally with our colleagues to bring them on board in terms of where we're going and what we want to do. Yeah, this is the final slide. So in terms of the future challenges, we do see that maintaining colleague engagement and behaviours while competing with other business drivers is something that we really need to keep energy and focus behind the campaign, because we're all looking at when when Richard was talking earlier, he was talking about how do you do it, quicker, faster, leaner, cheaper, better. And that tends to get a lot of time and attention, but we also need people to say, you know what, there are impacts here. If we want to do that, can we also make it more energy efficient as well? We are getting more demands from our customers to have more sustainable products. Certainly in the last couple of years, I'm getting more requests coming in for information in terms of what do we do around specific products to make sure that they're sustainable. And I expect that those number of requests from our sales and marketing team are going to increase as the years continue to go on. And finally, it's about capturing and implementing innovative ideas, because there are people out there who may not necessarily be in the engineering space or the EHS space. And how do we harness that energy? And the likes of green teams and energy teams, I think, is definitely a way forward for us to be able to do that. So with that, I hope that I've given a good summary of the green journey that we've undertaken, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them after, but not energy-related ones, because I'm not an energy manager.
Thanks for that, James.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll do the questions again at the end. Thank you. So, as always,